How to start language learning, a complete guide for beginners. So I've already done a video on basically starting off for people who have no idea like anything about language learning, they're just interesting. This video is different. So this is a guide for people who have a language, they want to learn the language, they're going to learn it, they just don't know how to start. So this is if you haven't started learning a language, or even if you have started a little bit but you're a beginner, you don't really know how to do it. This is teaching you basically how to start, how to get off your feet. So who this video is for. If you want to learn a second language and never have, this video is for you. It will teach you exactly how to start learning. Please note that there isn't one way to learn. There's obviously a million different ways. You can start in any which way, but this is the way I use personally. So I am practicing what I preach, and you can and will make progress if you follow this and don't waste your time with other rubbish, because there is a lot of rubbish explaining things that you really shouldn't do. To kind of, I don't even know why people put rubbish on the internet, but this is going to help you actually do it if you go through this video. So yeah, as I said, it is for people who've already picked a language. If you're just interested and you haven't yet picked a language, this video is not really going to help you, because it's kind of showing you which order to learn things. I think people have a lot of difficulty with that. They pick their language, they learn greetings. This might be you if you've already tried to start learning language. They learn greetings, and then after that, they're just kind of stuck. They're just learning random things like numbers, colors, and then they give up because they think they just don't really know what direction they're going in. And the reason they don't know what direction they're going in is because a language is a bunch of different things put together. Like, you got to learn nouns, pronouns, case, verb, conjugation, literally everything, and you probably don't even know what half of those words mean if you're a beginner language learner. So who can blame you for not really knowing how to learn a language? So yeah, the most important thing I'd say watching this video is definitely do everything I say, because it will work, and also don't stress. So don't hear a bunch of new words, because obviously you're going to hear a bunch of new words that you don't know, and things you don't know, and kind of stress out and go, oh, this is too hard, or this is rubbish, or this is not how it's done, it has to be easier. This is the easiest possible way to actually do it. That isn't like rubbish, like I'll learn a language in 5 minutes. So this is how you do it. It is going to be stressful, but please don't give up, because you'll give up right before you're actually going to achieve what you're after. So yeah, if you haven't picked a language, I'd recommend you, if you haven't picked a language, or you don't have a notebook or any of the other resources for learning a language, I'd recommend you temporarily click off this video and watch a video called Absolute Beginner's Introduction to Language Learning. It's on my channel. I'll have a link in the description, but that is going to kind of start you off. If you really don't know anything about languages, that'll kind of tell you a bit about what you're getting into, how long it will take, that kind of stuff. This video is for people who actually want to commit to it. So yeah, with that said, we'll get into it. This is a high quality educational video. It's not rubbish. I'm not going to waste your time. Introduction. Starting to learn a new language is one of the most challenging things. Don't worry, I completely understand. It is stressful, it is hard, you're going to want to click off and quit, but I would urge you not to do that. As I've said, this video is designed for people this video is designed for you to watch all the way through once, so I'd rather you not stop, start. I want you to watch the video all the way through and then go back through and learn the things, because there's a bit of education in this, and then you'll have to go through and learn it. So I'm going to be kind of teaching things as they are in English, and then you have to go to your respective language and kind of teach you that. Obviously, if I just did a video teaching French stuff, it would benefit the people learning French, but it's not going to benefit everyone else. So this is kind of teaching you the process of how to learn a language, and I want you to take that education and apply it to the actual language you're learning. So yeah, my name is Ethan. I've been a language learner for years. If you're interested in further language coaching as well, I'm currently running a one-on-one language coaching program. I will talk about that at the end, because that's obviously not for everyone. But yeah, the steps. So in this video, we're going to talk about just a few basic things. So alphabet, if it applies, you're probably learning a language that uses the English alphabet. Greetings, basic word types, subject pronouns, and basic vocab. That's all that we're going to do for this video, and that it is quite a long video, but that's basically what we're going to talk about. So yeah. Also, as I said, there is no strict order to language learning. This is just, I think, is the best way to learn. And if you're a complete beginner and you don't really know that much about language learning, it's probably best just to go along with something and commit to it, rather than kind of thinking, oh, you know better, because at the end, you kind of have to take advice from someone who has done this before and is kind of an expert. So yeah, alphabet, part 0. The reason this is part 0 is because not every language has its own unique alphabet. So if you're learning French, Italian, Spanish, and a bunch of other easy languages, generally they use the same letters as English. So you can completely skip this step, but you're welcome to watch it through if you want. If you are learning a first language, it's probably not a good... Languages that have their own alphabet are generally more difficult, so it might not be the best idea to start with a language that is more difficult. However, if you're learning Russian, say, or any language, if you want, you're welcome to start with any language. You will need to learn the alphabet. Some people will say it's like you can kind of Romanize text, so you could get Russian reading text or Japanese reading text and have it written with English letters, like just in the Russian or Japanese or whatever language. I don't think that's a very good idea, because it's it's kind of jumping the gun a little bit. It doesn't really take that long to learn a language's alphabet, and then once you learn it, you're using it from the very beginning, whereas if you kind of have to introduce it halfway through, I just always found that's a little bit weird. So we're going to learn the alphabet straight away. Good thing is learning alphabets isn't actually that difficult when you're doing it. So the alphabet is basically the building blocks for reading and writing. It's not just to do with reading and writing because you need to know how to pronounce things properly. And the thing about romanizing things is it's not always accurate. Like there are plenty of letters in different languages that you can't write them with English letters. It just doesn't make sense. So it's kind of just better to get the feel of the language straight away than try and romanize it to make it easier. And by romanize, I mean using English letters. So if you were to take a Japanese word, you just write it with English letters. So yeah, I would recommend for learning an alphabet, you watch a full guide from a native speaker. I have some examples on the next slide. A full YouTube guide from a native speaker where they go through and explain the alphabet, written, not typed. The reason you want written is because typing is straightforward. You just have to learn where the keys are and the computer does it for you. With writing, there's a certain stroke order, as that's generally good for writing. So watching an expert write, it's good and you can kind of copy the stroke ordering and not set yourself up with doing the wrong thing. So the place you want to be writing this down is your notebook. I think I mentioned that at the start of the video. If you don't have a notebook, you need to get one for language learning. Typing stuff isn't good enough because you need to practice writing. And I think it's just generally better just to write. I don't know, I always have found that's better. So yeah, I want you to copy down the entire alphabet if you're learning it. Say you're learning the Russian alphabet, you would watch someone write it, you write it down as best you can the same way, and then you would go through row by row and learn it. So the way you do that is you can write next to the letters in Russian, for example, or whatever. You can write the English equivalent in a different color or smaller or something. So you would go through and learn what each letter corresponds to in English, and you can go row by row. So say you write in rows of 5, you can cover just the bottom rows, which you don't need, and just focus on the top row. And then you go through it and you go, this is bev, ver, geder, or whatever language you're doing, and you basically you learn them all. There's not really much more to it. I will probably make a full video on learning things like learning vocab and letters, but we're not going to go into that in this one. Alphabet is just what you're going to start with. Flashcards do work for some people, but for others they're a waste of time because you have to fully cut them out, or perhaps not if you're using digital flashcards. But yeah, I often find, like, I learn the alphabet. I could use flashcards, but it just takes too much time, so I would rather just write it out and go row by row and memorize it. Chances are, if you have difficulty memorizing things, you're either 1, not focusing enough, or 2, you're not actually disciplined enough. So focus is the most important thing with learning anything, in my opinion, but particularly languages. So if your mind is dawdling, you're not really paying attention, you're not really trying that hard, you're not going to focus. You need to 100% focus. So study time is for studying. You shouldn't be thinking about anything else. If you're looking at a row of 5 letters, you can definitely memorize that in 5 minutes, and perhaps potentially you forget it immediately afterwards, but that's okay because you've made progress. So an example of like videos that are good, this one on the left here is, I think I've actually watched it a while ago, but that is an explanation from an expert of how to pronounce each of the Russian letters. So it's got what they correspond to, and then it's got how to actually say them and that kind of thing. That's a really good video. And then this one down the bottom is someone writing it out, so you can copy it. I said before, try and find a video that has both. That's often difficult, so you can find multiple videos. That's actually a good thing. So if one person has an accent, or they're from a certain area, so they do things differently, or just even mistakes, you're not just embodying that from the beginning, you're learning from a few different masters. But yeah, that one down the bottom is someone writing it out. I don't know if they're a native Russian, but I presume they know what they're doing, and it seems fine to me. I have watched that, so as far as I know, that is correct. If it's not exactly correct, I'm sorry, I can't go through and watch everything and be perfect all the time. But yeah, that is an excellent video to copy handwriting. That's obviously cursive, so you might not want to start with that in Russian, for example. But yeah, just videos like that, and then this one kind of combines both. It is an expert teaching Arabic, for example. You probably wouldn't be learning Arabic as your first language, but these are just examples of the type of videos. So this guy is writing it out, which is good because you can see how he writes it, and then he's also giving an explanation on the pronunciation and stuff of each letter. So yeah, if it is a really complicated alphabet, you might have to watch a few videos on it, or a series of videos to understand it. Like, for example, Japanese, you're going to have to learn hiragana, katakana, and then kanji, so that might be more difficult. But then again, I am also presuming your language is quite easy. So yeah, go to YouTube and search search X alphabet for beginners, where X is the language you're learning, so Russian alphabet, Greek alphabet for beginners, whatever. And yeah, just look for videos like this where someone actually does a good explanation, and ideally they're a native speaker, so kind of look for the accent as well. If it's someone with an accent that isn't the language you're learning, that's fine, but just be careful, because obviously if you're not a native speaker, you might make mistakes. And of course, native speakers make mistakes as well, so I would recommend you watch multiple videos. But yeah, make sure you have a good understanding of both writing and reading, and just how to, you should be able to just, if you see a word in the language, you should be able to read it even with having no understanding of what it means, ideally, before you can kind of get into it. I just find it slows you down. Like when I very first started Russian, for example, I was kind of having to when I was trying to identify a word for something, I would say C arch, I would just assign letters I had no idea what they meant, a random thing in my head, one of them looked like an arch, one of them looked like a half circle with a line through it. Obviously I know these all now, but at the time when I had first begun and I didn't know the alphabet, I was kind of assigning them random, just weird analogies in my head to kind of understand them, and that's not the best. So yeah, just understanding the alphabet is a good place to start. So yeah, part one, greetings. So that was just for people who need an alphabet for the language. Now we're going to actually properly start, and this applies to everyone. So I have changed my mind a little bit on this, but I think starting with greetings is a good thing. The reason I think this is a good thing is because if you are starting to learn these words and you don't enjoy it from the beginning, the language probably isn't for you, rather than jumping into strict grammar and that kind of thing. Same applies to the alphabet as well. If you're already not enjoying the alphabet or the greetings, you probably should stop. This isn't a question of discipline, it's more just, if you really don't like the language, there are other languages you will like more, we'll put it that way. So yeah, I think it's good to start with something simple like this. The only things you really need to learn are just hello, goodbye, please, thank you, sorry, basic things. You can learn plenty more. You can learn you're welcome, excuse me, my name is, if you want. That's not really a greeting, but yeah, anything like that, good morning, if you really want to. But these things will come. I just think learning a few basic words like greetings are a good place to start. They're just pretty simple. A lot of people do make the mistake of learning greetings, and then from there they get stuck, but that's okay because you've got this video, so I will tell you what to do afterwards. A tip for learning vocab is repetition is the only true way. So some people just get really, really frustrated and they haven't even actually tried properly to learn it. They'll just read it and get kind of pissed off that they haven't actually learnt it straight away. So start with writing it out. That's why your notebook's important. It's better than typing, because if you're typing, you'll get lazy and copy paste it, or you'll just, typing something out doesn't really teach you. I think writing it out is good for memorizing it. So yeah, I will definitely make a video dedicated to learning vocab, but to learn vocab, you just need to write it out, read over it, use it in context, which is why reading books and stuff is really good, but that's obviously more advanced. So yeah, at the beginning, don't worry about not fully remembering everything straight away, but generally, I think it's pretty easy to remember hello and goodbye. You just write them out, you read them, and as you keep absorbing content, people will be using those words. So yeah, if you want to know the greetings in your language, just type in X greetings, again, where X is your language, copy them down, a few basic ones, you don't need to learn 100 of them, and yeah, learn them over time. They shouldn't be that difficult to do. Alright, part two, basic word types. This is where we start cooking with gas. So I haven't really taught you anything that intense yet. I've just kind of told you what to do, that's great. That's what you need. You need to kind of be told what to do because you don't fully know the order of things to learn with language learning. Here's where we actually start learning stuff. So the reason a lot of people struggle with language learning, as I said before, is because they just don't know what to do. You might know what nouns and verbs are. I guarantee you don't have a good understanding of verb conjugation. You don't have a good understanding of case, of what it means for nouns to decline, and just a million other things, words to inflect. So yeah, those are completely unfamiliar concepts to you, and to properly learn the language you're learning, you need to have an understanding of these concepts. So what we're going to talk about now is just basic word types, the basics to start you off. So do not panic, don't click off because it's unfamiliar and it annoys you straight away because you don't have a good understanding. Just understand this, just listen, and if you don't completely get the grip of this straight away, that is completely fine. You can watch this back, and you don't need to understand straight away. You will learn as you go. So there are plenty of word types. There are a bunch. There might be like 8 to 10 or something like that, but we're just going to learn 3 in this video. So nouns are people, places, things, ideas, and concepts. So you might already know what nouns are, but nouns are just things. So take words like people, so it can be someone's name, like Jack, my name Ethan, Sally, whatever, or it can be like just a title, I guess. So like teacher, student. The word person itself is a noun, boy, girl, that kind of thing. Places, so the beach or cities, or like Brisbane, for example, house, those are all places that are nouns. Things, so shoe and dog, just dreams as well. It doesn't have to be physical necessarily. And then ideas and concepts are also considered nouns. So people, places, things, those are all basically what nouns are. So if you can think of a word that's just it's just a thing, basically, like a dog, a phone, anything like that. That is a noun. You'll get the grip of this as we go along. So yeah, nouns can be singular or plural. You've got dog versus dogs. It can be more than one thing. It can be common or proper. So a common noun is just a random word. A proper noun is a name of something, and that has a capital letter. So obviously Emma is a proper noun because it's someone's name. So is Brisbane because that's the name of a place. It doesn't have to be a name of a person. And then most things are just common nouns like shoe, rope, water. They're all just common nouns, and they can be concrete or abstract. So there are some nouns that aren't actually physical things, like happiness. Don't worry about that for now. That'll just probably that overcomplicates it a bit. But yeah, nouns are just things like that. Verbs are action words, so words that express actions, occurrences, or states of being. So you've got words like eat, drink, run, jump. They're not things per se, like you can't. They're not something you could pick up really or anything like that. But they're just things you can do. So you can say, I eat, you eat, we jump, those kind of things. There are a few weird verbs, but yeah, you will get the hang of it. So an example sentence is the dog chased. Red is for nouns and green is for verbs, as you can see. So in that sentence, dog is the noun and chased is the verb, because chasing is an action word, it's something you do, and the thing is the dog. So yeah, we'll just do a few practice questions. So as I said, nouns are things, verbs are actions. So I want you to do this with me. Practice question 1, the boy eats the apple. I want you to identify every word that's a noun in that sentence, and I also want you to identify every word that's a verb. I'll just give you a second. Okay. You can pause the video if you'd like. So boy and apple are nouns because they're physical things, and then eat is the verb. So it's eats in this one, but yeah, eating, that is a verb because you're doing something. We'll try practice question 2 now. Nouns and verbs, can you find them? I'll show the answer. You're welcome to pause this as well. So in this one, we have home is the noun, and Charlie is also a noun. That's a proper noun because it's a person's name. It's at the start of the sentence, so it's capitalized anyway, but if it was not at the start of the sentence, it would obviously still have a capital letter anyway. We capitalize people's names. And then we've got had run as the verb. So run is the verb. Had is also a verb because it's kind of putting it into the past tense. I am a person. What do we reckon? Verb and noun. This is an interesting one. So, I said before we'd learned 3 word types. We've learned 2. What the other word type we were learning is pronouns. So, I is what's called a pronoun. Pronouns function similarly to nouns because they take the place of a noun. So, if you think about words like I, you, he, she, they, we, those are all pronouns. They take the place of something else. So, you can refer to really anything that's a noun as a pronoun by substituting it. And this is done for various reasons. It's done just so you don't have to constantly say something's name. Like you wouldn't want to say, I needed to get the book because the book is good and I need the book for this. Whereas you could just say, I need to get the book because it is important. You use that word, it. So yeah, am is a verb. I'll go through the other things first and then we'll read this paragraph down below. Am is a verb because it's a state of being. It's a bit of a weird verb, but yeah, it is. That's the state of being. It's not like you're eating or drinking or doing an action, but yeah, I am, you are, he is. That word there is a verb as well. Don't worry about that. It's a bit complicated. We'll get into it. Person is obviously a noun. You probably got that. But yeah, pronouns function similarly, as I said, because they take the place of a noun. So I've got another example sentence down the bottom. Jack walked because Jack needed to go there to get Jack's laptop. That is really weird to say because you're just saying Jack's name 3 times. Versus Jack walked because he needed to go there to get his laptop. That is more convenient to say because you can just use that pronoun he, his to kind of convey the meaning without having to say the person's name multiple times. So yeah, that makes sentences flow better and you'll get used to them. They're quite easy and they're important as well. We're going to learn them soon. I've also just talked about, I did mention it, am is a verb. It's not an action word per se, but it is actually the most common word. That verb is to be, so if you're being something, but it doesn't sound like for example with eat, you would say I eat, he eats. It changes a little bit because it has an S on the end, but it doesn't really change that much. This verb changes a lot. So I am, you are, he is, we are, they are. That word highlighted green is the same word in all of them. It just changes a little bit because of the person you're talking about. And you can probably get your head around that. You're just saying what you are, basically. And yeah, that's all there is to that, really. We'll go on to practice question 4. She saw him. Pretty straightforward. So there are no nouns in this sentence because we haven't actually mentioned a thing. We've used two different pronouns. So she is obviously a pronoun. It's referring to someone that's a girl, but it's not saying who the person is in particular. Presumably a person. But yeah, saw is the verb. It is you seeing something, that is the action. And then him is the pronoun as well. So in this one, it is a pronoun seeing a pronoun. There's no nouns involved. And yeah, if the pronoun takes the start... A pronoun takes the start and end of the sentence. If it does the function of a noun and isn't a person, place, or thing as a general rule, it is a pronoun. There are plenty of pronouns. We're going to learn a few soon, but yeah, we can't learn all of them in one video. There's too many, and it's not a good thing to do anyway, because just overloading yourself with new words, you won't learn most of them. You probably won't learn any of them because there's too many things to focus on. So yeah, these are just practice questions. I really just want you to identify the words in the sentence and what type they are. This is a really useful habit for later on, particularly if you're reading something intensively in another language and you don't know what the words are. If you can kind of identify what kind of word they are, like noun, verb, adjective, that kind of thing, pronoun, that will help you getting an understanding of that. Practice 5. The important person will arrive tomorrow so that the reporters can question him. That's a long sentence. I'll give you a second. There are a few probably of each in this one, so yeah. Go to the answer now. The important person will arrive tomorrow so that the reporters can question him. Obviously, we've got our nouns, person, and reporters. Reporters is a plural, so we're talking about more than one person, but that's okay. It's still a noun. Those ones in red are nouns. We've got him at the end, which is pink because it's a pronoun. And then we've got our two verbs in there. So, will arrive, the word will is also a verb, just like we had. I think it was, what was it before? We had run. That whole thing there is a verb. Same with how this will arrive is a verb. We just put will on the front to show that it's something that's going to happen in the future. But yeah, that is a verb. We've also got can, question. Often multiple verbs can combine like that. So can is something that can commonly go in front of things. Same with like should, you should, question, that kind of thing. So yeah, you'll get used to multiple verbs being combined together, but that is a verb. Just wanted to note as well that technically the word the here, I'll circle it, is also a pronoun, but we won't go into that now because it's a bit complicated. Yeah, if you have gone through that and you think you've done pretty well, that's good. You can always watch it back if you want. You probably know the answers, but you're welcome to go back and have a look over it. If you can pick out the nouns, verbs, and pronouns, that's great. You're on track for learning. And it's just a thing I need to teach you because a lot of people don't know what nouns and verbs are and then they wonder why they can't learn a language. So yeah, those are building blocks. They're very important to know to go on, or you probably will struggle a little bit. I might make a full video dedicated to word types just to explain every single one. But yeah, I think I've explained that to you. If you still don't understand it, that's okay. You probably will struggle if you keep going without an understanding of what those things are. But yeah, part 3, subject pronouns. So now we're going to talk about something quite interesting. It is going to require a bit of memorization to understand it. But yeah. Subject pronouns. So what subject pronouns are, we've already used that word pronoun and how it moves, it takes the place of a noun, but a subject pronoun is the pronoun at the start of the sentence, as a simple definition. So if we take the sentence, I was chasing him, there's those two pronouns, there's I and him, that are taking the place of people. You could say, like take for example me, my name's Ethan, chasing someone called Jack. You could say Ethan was chasing Jack, but that would be really weird for me to say that because I'd be referring to myself by my name. So I would say I was chasing Jack, or I could potentially say I was chasing him. So I and him are both pronouns. However, I is at the beginning and I am doing the thing. So that makes it the subject. The subject of the sentence is the person that's doing the thing. So I could say Jack was chasing the ball. Jack would be the subject in that one because Jack was the one doing the chasing. I could say the dog heard the cat. The dog would be the sentence because the dog would be the subject because the dog is hearing, if that makes sense. The subject is the thing that does the verb as a simple definition. If I was to flip that sentence above, I was chasing him, it would be he was chasing me, wasn't it? He and me are both still pronouns as before, but now in this new sentence where I'm saying he was chasing me, he is now the subject because it is at the beginning and it is doing the verb. I'm not chasing him anymore, he is chasing me, if that makes sense. So there are 7 main subject pronouns, and we're going to start with learning them. So I, you, he, she, it, we, and they are the 7 main subject pronouns. We'll go through and properly learn them now. So I want you to visualize the compass. This is probably something you have not heard anymore. You have not heard until this point with languages, but this kind of metaphor will help you understand. So with a compass, you've got the north-south axis. So if we look on here, That's a y-axis in mathematics. And then we've got the east-west axis, which is an x-axis. This is kind of what you apply to subject pronouns. So the way subject pronouns work is there's only 7, but there are thousands of different nouns. Like you could think of tree, school, road. There's a gazillion different nouns, but there's only 7 pronouns. So how do these take the place of everything? Well, the way it works is they work on 2 axes. So you've got singular and plural. Obviously, if you're referring to like if you're saying he did this, but you're referring to a group of blokes, you wouldn't say he's. That's just weird. You'd say they did this, and that's referring to a group of people. Same with girls. Same with just random things. So like if you're talking about multiple chairs, and you were saying if you're talking about one chair and you say it is here, but then you're talking about multiple chairs for whatever reason, you can't say it's a here. That's just weird. You say they are here because you're referring to a group of things. So subject pronouns change when they go from singular to plural. Obviously, if you're talking about yourself, you just say I did this. But if you're talking about yourself and a bunch of people who are with you, you're talking about yourselves, you say we. So it goes to the plural. Same with you. You doesn't actually change, but it does in some languages. So yeah. And then on the other axis, so that's the top axis, singular, plural. On the other axis, we've got perspective. So whether you're talking about yourself, someone else, or a person who isn't there. So these ones in the red box here, I just thought I'd outline that. Those are the pronouns I, we, you, he, she, it, and they. And we will talk about... I'll just break down exactly how these work. So the top axis, singular or plural. What plural just means is multiple of something. So book versus books. One book or multiple books. If it's just book, that would be singular. You're only talking about one. If you're talking about books, you're talking about multiple books, more than one. That's what the word plural means if you didn't know what it means. So subject pronouns do make a distinction between singular and plural. Obviously, you is the same in English, but we would say... if you're talking to someone, you say you did this, but if you're talking to a group of people, you can still say you did this. But that isn't the case in probably most languages. They use a different version of a you from singular and plural, so that can throw people off. But it's not that hard. You can probably kind of see how you could be different in the plural. They just use a different word for that when they're talking about more than one person, addressing a group of people instead of one person. So yeah. What else is there? We and they refer to groups of people, obviously, as well, 2 or more. And yeah, I think that's all there is as far as singular and plural goes. That's pretty easy to understand. As far as perspective goes, what perspective means is the perspective is the relationship between the speaker and the subject. So if the speaker is talking about themselves, i.e. the speaker is the subject, you'd use I. So if you're talking about yourselves, you just say, I did this. You wouldn't call yourself by name, that's a bit weird. You'd use the word I. And then obviously if you're talking about yourself that you did this, but you're in a group of people, you'd use the word we. Right? Second person. We talked about first person, this is second person. The speaker is directly addressing someone. So, with the second person, you're talking straight to someone. You're not talking about yourself, and you're not talking about someone who isn't there. You're directly addressing someone. You wouldn't say you to someone if you're talking about someone that's not there. That's just weird. So, you did this, or if you're talking to a group of people, it is, again, you did this for the plural. Yeah, that's basically all there is for second person. Second person isn't really used in literary works as well, so like books and stuff. They're mostly either from an I perspective or just talking about the person in third person. Third person. Okay, so the speaker is referring to someone or something that is either not present or not worth acknowledging. So this can be a person or a thing. The thing about first person and second person is that's always going to be referring to another person because you can't be referring to yourself if you're not a person, and you wouldn't be directly talking to someone that isn't a person. Unless, I guess you could technically talk to a pet or something, but that would be, most of the time you're going to be talking to a person. With third person, you could be talking about an object. So if you're saying, for example, it is here, you could be talking about a book, a chair, a car, anything like that. You could also be talking about a person that isn't there, so you would say he or she, he isn't here, or she's going there with me, that kind of thing. That is using those third-person pronouns. And then the thing about he, she, and it, they all become they in the plural. So if you're talking about a group of things, whether it's people, male or female, or a object, it is always they. Cool? Makes sense. Yeah, that's basically all there is to it. With this, I'm kind of teaching you how it works in English, and then you can teach yourself it in your respective language. So, yeah, I need to kind of give you an understanding of these things, because this is what people struggle with most. They don't understand it as a concept, and then when it comes to learning it in their respective language, they don't even know it in English. They don't know it exists, which is, I think, why a lot of English speakers struggle to learn other language more than, say, any other language really, because I know at least in Australia where I live, we don't really get taught how the English language works in school. So then when it comes to learning a second language, we kind of just got used to just figuring things out and winging them, and we kind of just know what feels right without understanding why it is actually right. So that kind of sets us off to failure with learning another language, whereas in some other countries, they actually learn the grammar rules of their own language, and so when it comes to learning another language, they just have to kind of swap the playbook out for their playbook, rather than actually learn the playbook, which is kind of what we're doing now. So yeah, example in French. So just to show you a different subject pronouns table, this is the one in English. I can't write on the screen with my finger. Here's the cursor. That's the English one. This is one in French. So you might not be learning French. I'm just showing you kind of an example in another language. So as you can see here, we've still got singular and plural like before, first, second, and third person, and then you've got like I, we, you, he, she, it, they, that kind of thing. So interesting about French, tu becomes vous in plural, so they don't have the same word for you. The blue words are French, so tu means you in the singular, vous means you in the plural, whereas we just have you and you for English. And then another interesting thing is we have, see how he, she, and it all become the same word in the plural? For French, they have two different words. So if you're talking about a group of boys, you'd use they in the masculine, and if you're talking about a group of girls, you use they in the feminine. So they have two different words for talking about different things. I believe in French, if it's a mixed group or a group of things that aren't people, like chairs, you just use the masculine one. But yeah, that's just kind of an interesting example of how each language is a little bit different, and that's okay. You just have to adapt to that for your individual language. If you have any particular questions as well, please put them in the comment section. I will respond and give you a hand. So I think that is all for subject pronouns. You will just have to learn them. But yeah, I'd recommend you write them down in your notebook and just kind of go through and learn them. So yeah, if I was to ask you what's the Spanish word for he, you could tell me or whatever like that. I believe the Spanish word for he is el, so there you go. But yeah, Google subject pronoun table in X, where X is your language, and copy it down. It'll be easily available in images, or you can watch a YouTube video on it, or look at a website if you like. It's up to you. You don't have to memorize it instantly, but it will become important later. It's okay to make mistakes, but if you can't talk in plurality, that's a bit annoying. Like if you're talking about it is here, but you need to talk about multiple things, it'll just sound a little bit weird, and it's such an easy thing to learn. And I think it's a really good thing to start off learning, because it introduces you to that concept of kind of singular and plurality and first, second, and third person, which a lot of people just don't understand. And it's really, really important with language learning. So take my word for it, learn it. To finish up, a touch of common vocab. So I would recommend you just learn a couple new words as well. So we've already learned greetings as just a few basic words. You don't have to do this, but I'd recommend it just for a bit of balance, so you're not learning too many rules and important stuff that you haven't learned, and you're not having enough fun. So yeah, pick something you want to learn a little bit about. It could be basic words like house, apple, water, dog, just random words like that, or you can pick something in particular like jobs, days of the week, colours, if you want. Just learn a few of them. You can write them out and teach yourself, or you can use Duolingo. I wouldn't recommend beginners use Duolingo. I know that gets trashed a lot, but it is truly good for people who really don't know the direction they need to go in for learning things. So yeah, that's all. That's basically all there is to it. So here's what we learned in this video. How to learn an alphabet if required. You just basically write it out and learn it row by row. You focus and you need to repeat it, or you won't learn it straight away. And yeah, basic greetings as well. That's pretty easy to learn. Basic word types. That one can be a little bit difficult. If you had a bit of trouble with that, that's okay. You can go back and rewatch it, or you can find another explanation. But you should have an understanding of what word types are, or you will struggle with learning. Subject pronouns, introduction to the language compass. Yeah, that's important, and a few basic words. So we have made a good start this video. You didn't have to learn everything as I did it immediately. Obviously, I'm kind of teaching you in English, and you need to go back and teach yourself in your language. That's fine. So if you've watched the video through first time, and you've got your language, I recommend you go back through and you learn each thing one step at a time. And then once you've done that, great, you're on track. You're ready to move on to another video I have where I'll be talking about more complex things in the next stage with language learning. So yeah, I think that's basically it. Yeah, as I've written down the bottom, language learning is difficult. It requires significant investment and discipline. You won't understand everything immediately, but that's okay. You can learn it with persistence, and it's not an easy thing to do. That's why most people don't speak a second language, at least in Australia and probably most English-speaking countries. And certainly most people don't speak more than 2 languages, which is also not that hard to do, but it just requires discipline and persistence. So yeah. Here we go. So, if you are interested in a little bit of extra help, that's okay. I will have a link in the description to my website where I'm doing one-on-one language coaching. You're welcome to shoot me an email or comment. I'll have my email in the description below. We can talk a little bit about it if you're interested, talk about the price, talk about times we can do it, and kind of what's included. But yeah, basically I'm going to coach you on your language learning problems. So I'd recommend you, if you do book it with me, you shoot me an email before, tell me a bit about your problems, and I can go research them for you and talk to you about them in our FaceTime or Zoom call or whatever, and I can coach you a bit in your problems, and yeah, hopefully we can step over those boundaries. So yeah, it is affordable. I would recommend you do it if you are considering language learning and you really want to be good at language learning, because it's so useful to have someone kind of teach you a little bit one-on-one, address your personal problems, then watch a YouTube video. But yeah, that's basically all there is, guys. Comment down below if you have any questions, and yeah, links in the description if you need them. Enjoy.